Our main story tonight concerns prediction markets, the fast-growing platforms where you can bet on basically anything, as this TikToker explains.
I've been making a ton of money on this app that lets you bet on anything in the world. I bet that GTA 6 won't be released on time. I bet that Trump would pardon Young Thug this year. I'm predicting Delta Airlines will be the first airline to sell Zyn on their flights. I made money off Trump being elected president and because Kamala Harris didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. When I was in New York, I bet that it would rain, and it did, so I won money. I bet that Justin Bieber will go to the Diddy trial. When I was in Chicago, I bet on the temperature and won.
OK, shout out to that guy, Caden Booth, for having such a diverse set of interests. The first half of his bets are strictly Gen Z boy, Grand Theft Auto, Young Thug, Zyn, Rogan, but the back half is 100% suburban mom. Potential rain, the temperature, grisly celebrity trials. Cade, you contain multitudes. Prediction markets are basically platforms where you can wager on the outcome of future events. The companies decide on the questions to list, and right now, you can wager on anything from will traffic in the Strait of Hormuz return to normal by the end of April, to will the US confirm that aliens exist before 2027. These markets have seen exponential growth in recent months, logging billions of dollars in bets every week. You may have heard about them on the news or seen ads or stumbled across influencers like this guy who is constantly updating his followers on how his various wagers about the Trump administration are going. And I'll warn you, it's a real roller coaster.
China question, please!
High-end NVIDIA chips in China, but the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday...
Oh, my hero!
The president has made his position on this very clear, both to the Chinese, that's not something we're interested in selling to China.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Yes! Barack Hussein Obama! Getting rich off Jeffrey Epstein. All the files dropped? Yeah! Is Donald Trump named in the files? They're all redacted!
Yeah. A lot more screaming than you thought there, huh? And it's kind of amazing to witness someone absolutely furious that Trump's name was redacted from the Epstein files for a completely different reason than the rest of us. The point is, a lot of people are getting into prediction markets, thanks in part to an aggressive marketing push by the two big players in this space, Kalshi and Polymarket. Kalshi recently locked in a $22 billion valuation from investors, doubling its valuation from just a few months earlier, and Polymarket's currently trying to do the same. Meanwhile, dozens of new entrants like Coinbase, Robinhood, and even Truth Social are also trying to get in on the action. It is shocking the extent to which prediction markets have proliferated, and sometimes it's been a little unnerving given the things that you can now bet on.
Ali Khamenei out as supreme leader of Iran? Will Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper be arrested by the end of February? Those are just two events offered on popular prediction markets in the U.S. over the last couple of weeks, where people could have put their money down, betting on the outcome.
There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world, and being able to bet on just like horrible things like that, like when somebody's gonna be found, like that's really dark to me.
Yeah, he's right. The impulse to try and make money betting on war or an unfolding tragedy is really dark. When someone dies, you're supposed to send their family a card that says, sorry for your loss, and not one that says, thanks for covering the spread. That's just one of many issues associated with these sites. And given that, tonight, let's take a look at prediction markets and try to answer a few questions that you might have. Where exactly did these sites come from? What purpose, if any, do they serve? And how on earth is any of this legal? And let's start with the fact that the broad concept of prediction markets on news events is nothing new. In the late 80s, economists at the University of Iowa created the Iowa electronic markets as an experiment, allowing students and faculty to buy and sell predictions about upcoming elections. And interestingly, they began to outperform many leading polls. The theory was that the wisdom of crowds, in the form of people putting actual money behind their opinions, can produce useful forecasts. And controversial uses of these markets are not new either. After 9/11, the Pentagon actually flirted with creating a market where experts could wager on future events, hoping it could help predict events in the Middle East. But it quickly got shut down once members of Congress found out about it and voiced their disgust.
This betting parlor on the internet will include wagers, for example, as the examples on the internet site put up by the Department of Defense would include, will Mr. Arafat be assassinated? Will there be missile attacks from North Korea? Will the King of Jordan be overthrown, just as an example? I think this is unbelievably stupid. It's not only, it is, well, that is a gentle thing to say about a program that is so devoid of value It combines the worst of all of our instincts, in my judgment.
Yeah, he was justifiably upset at the notion of people betting on geopolitical events that would affect millions of lives. As we all know, the only groups that society's decided are allowed to profit from instability are military contractors, members of the Trump family, and the Mormon wives. Whitney joined the cast of Chicago on Broadway, and Taylor gets announced as Bachelorette and then notably unannounced. I don't know how these women do it, but I cannot stop watching. The point is, back then, the concept of betting on grim outcomes seemed beyond the pale, but everything started changing a few years ago when Kalshi and Polymarket launched as startups, opening the door to the free-for-all that we have now. Initially, Kalshi sought regulatory approval, and in 2020 it was approved as the first regulated exchange, but Polymarket went a different way, launching without approval and seeming to be comfortable working outside the rules. The government actually accused Polymarket of operating an unlicensed exchange, and as part of a 2022 settlement, it agreed to pay $1.4 million and block Americans from trading on the platform while admitting no wrongdoing. And it is worth watching Polymarket CEO Shayne Coplan try to spin that penalty.
It was a $1.4 million fine, and also...
It was a settlement.
And you could not have customers in the United States.
Yeah, we had to go and geoblock trading in the U.S. and move certain operations offshore. And it wasn't, hey, you're banned from trading in the U.S. It's like, until you're licensed.
I mean, it was breaking the law.
I mean, people say breaking the law, it's like, which law, you know? So, if anything, it's incompatible.
It's incompatible with the law.
Yeah, with the regulatory matrix that existed.
Look, incompatible with the law is clearly ridiculous, but please don't overlook the line, people say breaking the law, and it's like, which law, you know? I'm sorry, what? I'm pretty confident there is a specific law you broke, given, you know, you paid a $1.4 million penalty. Regulators weren't just like, shit, he just asked which law. Oh, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882? From the start, Polymarket took an extremely libertarian approach, allowing users to use crypto to bet anonymously on things like war. And while it's currently rolling out a new app to US users that does have government approval, it is way more limited and mostly offers trading on sports. The vast majority of its business is still done on Polymarket's international version, which is based offshore in Panama, and on which American users have to mask their location if they want to trade. And while doing that might be a high technological bar to clear for someone like me, using a VPN is something anyone under 25 learns to do before they learn how to write a cursive capital G, mostly because that is an impossible letter invented by someone who wanted to make children suffer. It looks like someone stabbing himself in the stomach with a pencil, because that's exactly what trying to write that letter makes you want to fucking do. But regardless of how these companies got to this point, both enjoyed a huge surge of attention about a year and a half ago after this happened.
Kalshi made a name for itself in the 2024 election.
Just over 1 week away from Election Day, and the race is neck and neck.
It looked close, unless you were keeping an eye on Kalshi, which called the race well before the TV networks did.
It was like Kalshi, then Fox, then CNN.
How did that feel?
It was crazy.
Yeah, Kalshi predicted Trump would win, as did Polymarket, whose CEO then tweeted, make no mistake, Polymarket single-handedly called the election before anything else. The global truth machine is here, powered by the people. And while it is not the most important thing, you have now met the CEOs of these two companies, and I'm just going to say it, they are two of the most extras in a Totino's Pizza Rolls commercial-looking motherfuckers I have ever seen in my life. Anyway, since then, they've both been scrambling for market dominance, which is why Kalshi, for instance, has run TV ads like this.
Indiana gonna win, baby!
We're in Florida asking people what they put their money on! I'm all in on OKC!
Indiana got that dog in them!
Will egg prices go up this month?
I think we'll hit $20. How many hurricanes do you think we'll have this year?
Kalshi!
Kalshi lets you legally trade on anything, anywhere in the U.S. OKC!
Indy! OKC!
Okay, that visual cacophony is an AI slop atrocity. It contained 2 alligators, 4 shirtless or nearly shirtless old guys, 1 egg freak, 3 different people being pursued by the police, 1 woman I'm kind of rooting for, 1 USDA inspector's fucking nightmare, and 1 alien seemingly rooting for Duke, which honestly tracks. And the whole thing ends with the world's gone mad, trade it, although given everything that came before, a more honest tagline might have been, fuck empathy, get money, Kalshi. And again, that is the one that likes to present itself as the more buttoned-down, rule-abiding company of the two. And at this point, you might be thinking, wait, isn't that an ad for a gambling site? But both Kalshi and Polymarket will fiercely argue that that's not what they are at all. They argue that gambling involves playing against the house, while their users are trading against each other, with the companies typically just charging a fee on trades. They'll also insist that they're simply modern versions of commodity futures markets, which have been around for over a century. If you're not familiar with them, they're a place where people can speculate about the future price of things like corn or natural gas. And crucially, they will argue that the bets they sell are financial instruments that enable ordinary people to hedge against future risks, like betting that, say, a hurricane will hit or that the US government will shut down. Here is how Kalshi's CEO frames it.
We had a market about whether student loans are going to be forgiven or not this year. And so a lot of people were hedging using that market. And so if it wasn't forgiven, they would get paid some amount of money that they could use to basically pay the student loan. And that's why this is very important.
Right, apparently they're just trying to help people make wise planning decisions. It's the kind of responsible financial thinking that you intuitively associate with a company that advertises itself with a shirtless old man being arrested or an alien pledging Sigma Chi. And look, that might make some sense when you're talking about an economic indicator or a specific event that might impact you personally. But what exactly is the financial loss that I'm hedging against if I bet on the next winner of The Masked Singer or on whether or not Mr. Beast will say feastable? And when you watch some of Kalshi's actual customers in action, the notion that this is about sober risk management feels absurd.
I'll tell you, if I didn't win this election, and if you had a moron like Kamala or a moron like Sleepy Joe...
Yeah! Bang!
There we go.
Bang! Number one, Sleepy Joe.
We're looking good so far.
Easy, bro. Okay, all right.
We made about $200.
Okay, all right.
$200. Men playing in women's sports.
Wait.
Transgender.
Hey! Hey!
We are off to a great start.
Yeah, we hit on that shit immediately.
There we go. Sleepy Joe, transgender.
We got Sleepy Joe and transgender in like the first 5 minutes, bro. Bro, we're up like $500.
We gotta make 1,000.
Yeah, we gotta make 1,000. Okay, all right.
I have no, I couldn't even tell you what this man is saying. Like, he just says a soup of random words. Somehow Joel is just deciphering this and just making money.
Yeah, that is not using a financial instrument to hedge risk. It's taking advantage of a sundowning geriatric's rapidly declining verbal abilities. Oh, you bet he's going to say the word nasty? Great guess, dude. It's one of the last 200 words he has left. Honestly, that clip is unsettling on multiple fronts. One, because the president's harmful rhetoric is being divorced from its actual meaning. But two, because that's not what these bros are supposed to be doing. They shouldn't be betting on Trump speeches. They should be sitting on that same couch and watching YouTube highlight reels of Kevin Love outlet passes, 6 Modelo's in, forging a deep, beautiful friendship that will last for 40 years and that they will never, ever discuss. Nature has lost its course. The point is, that sure looks like gambling, and it is pretty telling that while political mentions markets like that get a lot of attention, around 90% of trading volume on Kalshi is on sports. But you can see why these companies are so insistent that they are not gambling sites. Just 39 states, DC and Puerto Rico, have some form of legalized sports betting, with only 32 of those allowing online gambling, leaving some pretty attractive megastates like California and Texas on the table. And by insisting they are financial exchanges offering not bets, but event contracts, prediction markets are not only able to operate in states where gambling isn't legal, but also get around state taxes and minimum age requirements in states where it is. And they've sometimes talked out of both sides of their mouth on this, because in ads like this one, Kalshi's called itself the first nationwide legal sports betting platform. But when asked about it, it later tried to qualify that statement, saying the bet language is only used in the sense that any financial position can be considered a bet on the future. And that is so dumb, it is almost charming. It's like seeing a sign outside a strip club that says girls, 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 and then seeing the manager come out and say, we meant girls, girls, girls who code. We support women in STEM. Sure you do, buddy. Nice try. But these companies' insistence that they are not gambling platforms is actually one of the two most irritating claims that they tend to make. The other is that they're actually incredibly important to society because they can help us more accurately predict the future. The head of Polymarkets even called it the most accurate thing we have as mankind right now, and has bragged that the predictions it generates can save lives.
When I get hit up by people in the Middle East who are saying that, hey, we're looking at Polymarket to decide whether we sleep near the bomb shelter. Like, we look at it every day, and I'm like, oh, it's really that popular over there? Like, are you kidding me? Like, do you not even know what's going on? Like, everyone's relying on this. That's very powerful. That's like an undeniable value proposition that did not exist before.
Hey, quick question. What exact stage of capitalism are we in when the child CEO of an offshore gambling platform refers to betting odds on bombings as an undeniable value proposition? Because it feels like we're in palliative care at this point. But I guess that is the point you reach when you're a 27-year-old billionaire surrounded by yes-men who will never tell you the truth, something I know for sure because no one in his life told him never to ever wear that jacket, which when he is sitting like that unmistakably says, Peed Rider. Though, for all the talk of these sites' unparalleled accuracy, you should know that's a bit of an oversell. They have shown promise in some areas. A recent paper found Kalshi's predictions were roughly consistent with those of professional forecasters when it came to the economy and Federal Reserve policy, but they've also had some big misses. For instance, both favour the Chiefs to win last year's Super Bowl and also whiffed the recent Texas Republican Senate primary, with Polymarket even posting a breaking alert that morning, announcing Ken Paxton was projected to win, with their odds giving him an 83% chance, and, he didn't do that. And look, all of that would be fine. These are just odds, and real life can defy odds, were it not for the fact that these companies are actively selling themselves as basically oracles. And they've even tried to bolster that reputation by entering paid partnership deals with news organisations. Dow Jones, parent company of the Wall Street Journal, announced a partnership with Polymarket earlier this year, while CNN, CNBC and Fox News all signed deals with Kalshi, which even sponsors segments on CNN that feature Kalshi's odds on various future events scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And I do not want the CNN ticker to have betting odds on news events. I don't really want anything on there except maybe the odd distractingly weird headline that takes my mind off things for a second. Something like, giraffe escapes from zoo, please say it has a gun. Something fun to Google later. But having their logo like that on CNN is a big win for Kalshi, just as it's a big win for them to have influencers like that guy from earlier saying how easy it is to win money. Though you should know, after we asked, Kalshi told us that they paid him for that post. And it feels like deals like those should really be more transparent. It makes me a little annoyed and, to be honest, even more hungry. And, when I need something nutritious yet in a can, I know where to turn. Bush's Baked Beans. But full disclosure, I was paid $40 to say that. The thing is, it's worth knowing that in reality, as with sportsbooks, researchers have found that most users of Kalshi and Polymarket lose money. As we've discussed before, casual gamblers are always going to be easy prey for more sophisticated operators with advanced systems to give them an edge, which is probably why, while Polymarket has more than 2 million users, one analysis found more than 2/3 of all money won on it was held by just 740 accounts. And if you're thinking, how exactly are these companies getting away with all this? Well, a lot has to do with who is in the White House right now. Both companies have fostered strong connections with the Trump family. In fact, Don Jr. is both an investor in and an unpaid advisor to Polymarket and a paid advisor to Kalshi. And look, I am not saying that Don Jr. isn't providing important or valuable insights, although in a much truer sense, I very much am saying that. I'm just saying it's notable just how hard it was for Kalshi's CEO to answer a series of basic questions about Don Jr.'s role.
Why did you guys make Donald Trump Jr. a strategic advisor?
We have a lot of advisors, and they span across the board, across different functions. But really, this is all about growing this industry, the prediction market industry that a lot of people really believe in.
What kind of advice does he give you?
So it really is, again, about growing prediction markets. He believes in prediction markets, we believe in prediction markets, a lot of people believe in prediction markets, and it's really about go-to-market and expansion plans.
Does he come to meetings? How much do you pay him? What's his role? I mean, this is the son of the president.
We have a lot of advisors, and whether it's our investors, whether it's people that we really trust and respect, whether
He's not just any advisor. He has a direct line to the White House.
We have a lot of advisors.
Yeah. Turns out it's pretty hard to justify hiring a Nepo baby, or, in Don Jr.'s case, a Nepo divorced dad. But the thing is, if hiring Don Jr. helped get these companies on Trump's good side, it's a bet that's paid off massively for them. Because while the Biden administration had at least tried to rein in some of what these markets were doing, the Trump administration has gone hard in the other direction. And to understand the degree to which that's the case, take a look at the CFTC, or Commodity Futures Trading Commission. It regulates these platforms, and it was actually empowered under the Dodd-Frank Act in 2010 to block event contracts about terrorism, assassination, war and gaming. You know, a bunch of what you've seen so far tonight. But it is clearly not doing that, and it doesn't even seem to be trying. In fact, while the CFTC is supposed to be comprised of 5 commissioners, 2 of whom are required to belong to the minority party, it currently only has this guy, Michael Seelig, a Trump appointee who's a massive cheerleader for this industry. He completely buys into their whole "this is all about hedging risk" argument, to the point that he once suggested that somebody with a medical condition could manage the potential risk of having a future treatment or medical costs by placing a bet on the likelihood of something passing a drug trial, which is, and I don't say this lightly, one of the most fucked up suggestions I have ever heard for this country's Guernica-ass healthcare system. And while Seelig's recently made noises about stronger enforcement, it is hard to take him at his word, given that during his confirmation hearings, he told Congress he'd let courts decide whether these companies constitute gambling. But in office, he's done the exact opposite of that. In fact, more than a dozen states are currently suing prediction markets, but rather than let that play out in the courts, like he promised, Seelig posted this video.
To those who seek to challenge our authority in this space, let me be clear. We will see you in court.
What a fucking weasel. That guy has both the energy and fashion sense of a Suits villain who goes toe-to-toe with Harvey and Mike all season long, while Lewis and Meghan Markle, I don't care what you say, that's a character name to me, watch on. But he's done more than just threaten. Seelig's led his agency to sue 3 states to get them to back off trying to regulate prediction markets. So right now, these companies are able to operate under extremely friendly conditions. And given that, it's worth looking at some of the problems that have already begun to emerge, starting with the fact that for a lot of these bets, it is incredibly easy for individuals to manipulate the outcomes. Some have even joked about that. For instance, on a recent earnings call, the CEO of Coinbase said this.
I was a little distracted because I was tracking the prediction market about what Coinbase will say on their next earnings call, and I just want to, add here the words Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, staking, and Web3 to make sure we get those in before the end of the call.
Yeah, he saw people's bets online and just rattled off words that they bet on him saying. And it really feels like manipulating betting outcomes should be more difficult than that. In the old days, you at least had to sneak cocaine to a racehorse, not just rattle off a list of the most punchable words in the English language. We even realised while researching this piece that there was betting happening around this show, specifically on what words I'd say during our show on February 22nd, which is stupid for multiple reasons, including that we tape on Saturday in front of a studio audience, all of whom would then have a massive information advantage and more than 24 hours before the betting window closed. Now, thankfully, we wipe every audience member's memory before we let them out of the taping. We try to erase only the last couple of hours, but sometimes we do wipe clean a milestone birthday. That's on us, and we're constantly calibrating the technology. You've been warned. You won't remember, but you've been warned. And there are markets where it is way too easy for anyone to manipulate outcomes. Just last summer, you might remember a bunch of arseholes started throwing dildos on the court during WNBA games to promote a crypto meme coin. And if that wasn't already a cursed enough sentence, I'll let this South African man fill you in on what happened next.
Did you know you can actually bet on whether a dildo will be thrown at the WNBA game on August 9th, August 11th, that's today, and August 12th, right here on Polymarket? I had no idea. Actually, I had no idea what the WNBA was either until, you could place a bet on whether a dildo would be thrown at it.
Yeah, none of that is great, and it is pretty depressing that the way he learned about the existence of the WNBA was finding out you could bet on whether a dildo would be thrown at one of its games. It'd be like finding out about the existence of Robert De Niro by Googling the cast of Dirty Grandpa. Oh, no, not like this. Don't learn about him like this. But it is true. People started betting whether dildos would be thrown again, and Polymarket even put up this tweet promoting the bets. And sure enough, more dildos got thrown. And that could well have been because Polymarket had just created a situation where you could easily make money by betting someone would throw a dildo and then going to a game with a dildo and throwing it. There have also been multiple instances of people seeming to use inside information to game these markets. Last year, a trader made over $1 million with a series of accurate bets about Google's rankings of its most searched people of 2025. That same person, by the way, had also earned over $150,000 by correctly predicting the exact release date of Google's Gemini 3 model, which really makes you think that that person either worked for Google or knew someone who did, or maybe managed to hack Google from the outside, in which case, would it kill you to do a Google Doodle for my birthday? It is on Thursday, by the way. And Polymarket CEO has in the past openly celebrated the fact that this kind of thing can happen on his platform because he's argued it just makes its prediction abilities that much stronger.
What do you guys do, if anything, to basically guard against insider trading?
Yeah. So it goes back to this idea of information markets, right? Like, you think about when will Gemini 3 launch? Nobody is under the impression that nobody knows the answer, right? Like, of course, there's people who are working on it who know when it's going to come. And I think what's cool about Polymarket is that it creates this financial incentive for people to go and divulge the information to the market, and the market to change, and all of a sudden it's trading at 95 cents, and people are like,
when you say divulge, you mean the people who actually know?
Yeah, or someone tells someone and then the market responds.
Yeah, he basically just answered the question, how do you guard against insider trading there, with no. And he did it with a fashion choice somehow even worse than his biker jacket, because what in the NYU Army fatigues is that shit? That sweater looks like it was made from illegally poached Grimace. But also, I don't care how many statement sweaters you wear or how many Ben Platt and Dear Evan Hansen haircuts you have. You're not describing some edgy, chill way to divulge information to the market. You're describing insider trading. And it gets genuinely chilling when you realise that people seem to be using insider info to bet on life or death events. In January, after the US seized Nicolas Maduro, an anonymous trader pocketed more than $400,000 off bets that would happen, with the bulk of those bets made mere hours before the raid was announced. In February, 2 Israelis were charged with using classified military information to place bets on Polymarket, and in March, this happened.
Deadly American strikes, and some people may have made money from them. More than a dozen anonymous accounts placed bets predicting that the United States would strike Iran by Saturday the 28th of February. Most of those wagers were placed in the hours before the first bombs fell, and many of the accounts had been created only days earlier. One of the biggest winners used the account name MAGA My Man. The trader placed $87,000 on a war with Iran exactly 71 minutes before the first strike, winning a jackpot worth $515,000.
Yeah, that sure feels like someone with inside information was betting on Polymarket, and I'd say that it wasn't a great idea to make their username MAGA by Man, except it doesn't seem to matter anymore, does it? His username might as well have been MAGA my man, just kidding, my name is Dylan Barthwell and I work at the Department of Defence. He's not really risking much. Now, I should say, Kalshi just announced it took action in 2 insider trading cases and has taken out billboards bragging that it bans insider trading and also that it doesn't offer death markets, which is a little weird. It'd be like McDonald's putting up ads that its nuggets don't contain baby meat. OK, Mama, but now I have way more questions. For its part, Polymarket recently updated its rules to clarify that users can't act on stolen confidential information, wager using illegal tips, or bet if they're in a position to influence the outcome of an event. Although, it is not a great sign that just recently there was a suspicious spike in trading right before the ceasefire with Iran was announced, as a group of new accounts on Polymarket made highly specific, well-timed bets about it, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it sure seems like right now, we've effectively got gambling sites operating even in states where gambling is illegal, and offering bets on things that there have been laws against for over a decade now. So, what can we do? Well, at the bare minimum, the CFTC should be doing more. And while it says it's writing new rules, I wouldn't expect much, especially for as long as this fucking guy is in charge. As I said earlier, there are a bunch of cases making their way through the courts right now, but it's not clear how they'll resolve, and it's probably going to be in front of the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Congress is considering a number of proposals tackling aspects of this issue, although, given that the President of the United States has a kid currently advising both major companies, I wouldn't hold your breath. So, meaningful policy shifts in the near term do seem unlikely, but at some point, we do need to put in place some basic guardrails here. And until then, if we can't change how these sites operate, we should at least try and change how we individually see them. One thing that would frankly help is if news organisations stopped laundering these companies' reputations for them by putting their odds on screen like they are actual news. Because is it a bad idea for them to be doing that? If I may quote the single loudest man in the world. Yes, exactly. I couldn't have screamed it better myself. And look, on a personal level, if you're considering using these markets to gamble, try and remember that you are statistically likely to lose money. And while I am not against gambling per se, there is something so grim about these sites turning every aspect of our lives into a bet. Because sure, money can be won on them, but in that happening, something also gets lost. Specifically, a society where things aren't only weighed in financial terms and where people engage with news for what it means to human beings, not just because they have $50 riding on it. And when something unexpected happens in the world, it would be really nice not to have to automatically question whether it's only because someone is trying to move a market. That is why I'm going to make you a promise tonight. I will never do anything because someone online placed a bet on it. So you can be confident that if I ever say Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, staking and Web3, it won't be because I'm trying to move markets. It'll be because I'm having a stroke. And once you have that trust, you can feel secure in the knowledge that if a dildo ever lands on this desk, it's not because someone had a secret wager on it, it's because we weren't sure how to get out of a 32-minute segment on a quasi-legal gambling industry, but we knew that a thrown dildo in the right circumstances and with the full consent of the person having it thrown at them would be undeniably funny. And if more than one dildo lands, it's only because a fundamental rule of comedy is more dildos is more funny. And if it turns out there are too many dildos flying through the air, I promise it will only be because we didn't know how many to buy and now we're sort of screwed because I don't think you're allowed to return them.